Which cryptocurrencies are safe from the SEC? This question has been top of mind for crypto investors in the US and elsewhere, and it's a question that US politicians tried to answer in a recent hearing about crypto regulation. The list of witnesses included former regulators, current crypto lawyers, and even someone from Polkadot. What was said could have a profound impact on crypto in the United States, especially on ICOs. So today, I'm going to summarize what was said during this hearing, reveal which crypto projects could be safe from the SEC, and tell you exactly what it could mean for the crypto market. The hearing I'll be summarizing today is titled, quote, "The Future of Digital Assets, Measuring the Regulatory Gaps in the Digital Asset Markets." In contrast to other crypto hearings, this was a joint hearing between two different subcommittees. This underscores its importance, so pay attention. Note that the link to the full hearing will be down in the description. Now, the hearing began with opening statements from the top-ranking politicians present. The first to speak was Dusty Johnson, great name. He said that most countries are ahead of the US on crypto regulations and that the US needs to stay in the lead. He also applauded the EU's recent crypto regulations. More about those in the description. The second politician to speak was Yadira Caraveo. She said that crypto's complexity means that it's not enough for one committee to be involved, hence the joint hearing. She also said that there needs to be more collaboration between the SEC and the CFTC and called for the CFTC's funding to be increased. For context, the crypto industry has been trying to pass regulations that put the CFTC in charge of crypto. This is primarily because the CFTC is a principle-based regulator, which makes it easier to comply. By contrast, the SEC is a rule-based regulator, and its lack of guidance has made compliance impossible. This ties into French Hill's opening statements. French proclaimed that what US politicians decide to do about crypto this year will shape upcoming crypto regulations, hence why I keep summarizing these hearings. French said that the collapse of FTX can't cloud their judgment about crypto regulations. Well said. The fourth politician to speak was Stephen Lynch, and he struck a different tone. Stephen insisted that existing regulations are enough for crypto, and the only issue is non-compliance. He also warned that creating new rules for crypto would incentivize other market participants to use them as a loophole. Stephen went on to say that some participants in the crypto market have decided to sue the SEC. He warned that this isn't a smart move because the SEC has won every case it's brought against a crypto company so far. Now, obviously, this was a not-so-subtle reference to Coinbase, which recently sued the SEC. Ironically, Coinbase is suing the SEC to force it to explain how the exchange can comply with its rules. The fifth and sixth politicians to speak were Patrick McHenry and Maxine Waters. Patrick reiterated his colleagues' call for the SEC and CFTC to work together. Maxine said that she wants the SEC to have more power so that it can go after offshore crypto companies. They didn't say much else worth mentioning. On that note, you should know that SEC Chairman Gary Gensler confirmed in another recent hearing that the SEC already has the power to go after offshore crypto companies. It's just more difficult and more expensive. You can hear what else Gary said about crypto regulation using the link in the description. Now, once the politicians were done, it was time for the witnesses to speak, and there were 6. Andrew Durkee, the head of compliant ICO platform Republic Crypto, Matthew Culkin, who used to work at the CFTC, Marco Santori, Chief Legal Officer at the Kraken Cryptocurrency Exchange, Daniel Schoenberger, Chief Legal Officer at the Web3 Foundation, which coordinates Polkadot's development, Timothy Massad, who also used to work at the SEC, and Michael Blaugrund, the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange. An interesting set of speakers, to say the least. The first to go was Andrew. He said that the laws around compliant ICOs in the United States aren't clear, and this is limiting millions of Americans from making life-changing gains, basically. He also pointed out that the adoption of crypto isn't technological anymore, it's purely regulatory. The second to speak was Matthew. He said that BTC and ETH are commodities and therefore subject to oversight by the CFTC, not the SEC. He also said that the CFTC has authority over certain stablecoins and called for the expansion of the CFTC so that it can properly regulate the crypto commodities. For reference, Gary Gensler has stated that BTC is the only crypto that's a commodity. He believes that all other cryptos, including stablecoins, are securities. Many current and former CFTC officials have stated that ETH and stablecoins are commodities, not securities. A tug of war over oversight, if you will. The third to speak was Marco. He revealed that Kraken has over 10 million users and over 4,000 employees. He highlighted the fact that different jurisdictions around the world, including the UK and the EU, are introducing crypto-specific rules and argued that the US should follow suit before it falls behind. The fourth to speak was Daniel. He said that DOT was originally sold as a security, but it's no longer a security because Polkadot has become decentralized. This argument is based on a statement from former SEC Director Bill Hinman, who said that ETH wasn't a security because Ethereum is sufficiently decentralized. For those who don't know, the Web3 Foundation has repeatedly stated that DOT is not a security in recent months. Now, this could be a sign that DOT could be facing regulatory scrutiny from the SEC. Regardless, it's something to watch closely because it could have profound implications for other cryptocurrencies. Daniel then argued that having two token categories, commodity and security, isn't enough. He explained that other jurisdictions like Switzerland have multiple token categories for crypto. He also said that there needs to be a clear pathway for coins and tokens to become decentralized, aka not securities. The fifth to speak was Timothy. He said that he was concerned about creating new laws and definitions for crypto, but acknowledged that existing laws are outdated. He said that a simple solution to this problem would be to allow crypto exchanges to create their own organization that answers to regulators. Notably, Timothy said that the SEC should still be allowed to argue that some exchanges listed securities. However, the exchanges should not be punished for this since the regulations are not clear. Instead, they should simply be required to delist the offending coins or tokens. An approach far too sensible for Gary. Anyway, the sixth to speak was Michael. He started by saying that the New York Stock Exchange has been around for 200 years, and although the technology has changed, the markets have not. As such, crypto exchanges should be subject to the same rules as centralized exchanges for stocks and other assets. Michael went one step further and argued that there is already a process in place for crypto exchanges to comply, but they have just refused to do so. That's because these exchanges provide all the different services in-house, custody, clearing, etc. These processes are typically segregated for safety reasons. Michael also said that traditional centralized exchanges should be allowed to list cryptocurrencies too. This begs the question of whether scrutiny of crypto exchanges is coming from the lobbying being done by traditional exchanges which fear going out of business due to their outdated trading methods. I think we all know the answer. Anyways, once the opening statements were done, the question period began. The first question came from Dusty. He asked Matthew how we can tell whether a crypto has become decentralized enough to count as a commodity. Matthew's answer was when it's listed on a futures exchange like the CME. Now, to be honest, this doesn't make much sense because it means that the CME would essentially have the power to anoint a crypto as a commodity. If this somehow turns out to be the criterion for a crypto to become a commodity, then it looks like ADA and SOL are on the list. The CME wants to list them both. In any case, the second question came from Yadira. She asked Timothy if it was possible for the CFTC to regulate crypto given the small size of the agency. Timothy said no, and then made a random comment about how Tether's USDT isn't a commodity and that, quote, we want to see it regulated as a security. Now, this is odd for two reasons. First, it's not clear who we are. Timothy currently works at Harvard, and I don't think they care much about USDT's classification. Second, USDT is only listed on a handful of exchanges in the United States and isn't used all that much. A security classification wouldn't do much damage. Oddities aside, the third question came from French. He asked Marco if the SEC's existing disclosures capture the disclosures you'd want from a crypto project, such as the number of developers, nodes, etc. Marco said no, and that exchanges can provide these disclosures for decentralized crypto projects. Makes sense. The fourth question came from Stephen. He spent most of his time talking about how the crypto industry is purposely picking the regulator with the least resources for oversight, the CFTC. In his exchange with the witnesses, Michael implied BTC and ETH could still be securities, which is pretty scary. Makes sense, considering he's the CEO of a TradFi exchange. Now, the fifth question came from Glenn Thompson. He asked Matthew whether the self-regulatory organization, or SRO, proposed by Timothy in his opening statement would work. Matthew said yes, but said it would take too much time. Giving more authority and power to the CFTC would be faster. Something tells me that talking point didn't appeal to the politicians. After a long anti-crypto rant from David Scott, Warren Davidson pressed Marco on whether crypto wallets should require KYC, given that Kraken had apparently implied this at some point. Marco clarified that crypto wallets should not require KYC for the same reason that most regular transactions don't. Warren then asked an alarming rhetorical question, and that's, quote, when will Filecoin stop being a security? This is alarming because Phil is currently listed on major US exchanges. The fact that Warren asked this question could therefore mean that Filecoin is facing regulatory scrutiny from the SEC. I, for one, can't say I've seen any headlines about that. Anyhow, the eighth question came from Bill Foster, who is obsessed with digital ID. He repeated his spiel that the only way to stop illicit activity in crypto is to connect every crypto wallet to a government-issued digital ID. Bill revealed that Matthew had noted in his written testimony that wallets should have KYC. Yikes. The truly terrifying thing is that none of the witnesses were able to explain to Bill how crypto crime could be prevented in the absence of a government-issued digital ID. In their defense, they were there discussing specific securities and commodities regulations, not digital ID. Even so, it wasn't a good look. More about digital ID in the description. I digress. Then, after a few pointless questions from John Rose, Nikki Budzinski revealed that her constituents don't seem to care at all about crypto regulations. To her credit, she asked the witnesses how the conversation can be framed so that it's relatable to the average person. I presume this means she's pro-crypto. Unfortunately, the witnesses again failed to give any convincing answers here. The only one who came close was Timothy, who correctly said that constituents care a lot about crypto during bull markets when they're feeling the FOMO. He said that regulations need to be set up in advance so that they're safe. The 11th question came from Frank Lucas. Frank asked Marco how the EU's recent crypto regulations make things harder for the United States, a very revealing question. Marco said that Kraken has been hesitant to expand its operations in the US and is investing heavily in the EU and the UK. Bad news for the US. The 12th question came from Maxine. The only thing worth mentioning is a comment she made about how stablecoins face run risks like money market funds. This is timely, considering the US debt ceiling debate could cause issues for money market funds, and Tether has money with them. Probably nothing. The 13th question came from Brian Stale. He asked Andrew how the EU's crypto regulations are different from those in the US. Surprisingly, Andrew said that it would be a mistake for the US to only watch the EU. He said that there are lots of crypto regulatory developments in Dubai and Singapore as well. You can learn more about those and how they could cause the next crypto bull market using the link in the description. Now, the 14th question came from Don Davis. He essentially asked Marco about some of crypto's use cases. Marco made a not-so-subtle reference to LivePeer, a crypto project that transcodes video. I couldn't help but laugh when he said, quote, "Some of us watch videos on our phone from time to time." The 15th question came from William Timmons. He asked Marco whether it was possible for a securities exchange to list BTC, given that it's been classified as a commodity. Marco said no. Now, this is fascinating because it effectively means that only crypto exchanges can list BTC, not regular ones. The 16th question came from Sean Caston. He spent most of his time grilling Andrew about the supposed gains associated with crypto and cited a BIS report which found that 80% of crypto investors had lost money. Note that the BIS is the Bank for International Settlements, the bank for central banks. Sean also slammed Marco for making claims about Kraken that sound eerily similar to what Sam Bankman-Fried had claimed about FTX. He said that existing SEC regulations would force crypto exchanges to disclose the truth and slammed the industry for trying to cozy up to the CFTC. Specifically, he said, quote, "If this industry is going to be so big and so great and create so much wealth, why is it asking to be regulated by the smallest financial regulator?" Of course, he didn't have the decency to wait for the answer, which is that the SEC has refused to provide clear regulations. Then, after some more pointless questions from Mark Molinaro, Greg Casar asked Marco if any of the crypto's Kraken lists have registered with the SEC. Marco said 0, because there is no registration process. Greg then turned to Timothy and asked him how exchanges decide to list cryptos. Timothy said it's not clear. I have to agree with him on that one. After even more pointless questions from Mike Flood, Andrea Salinas asked the witnesses about crypto's impact on the climate. Believe it or not, but the witnesses were dead silent. After multiple seconds of awkward silence, Timothy reminded Andrea that this was about financial regulation, not climate issues. Note that you can get the facts about crypto's impact on the environment using the link in the description. Now, after yet another round of pointless questions, this time from Sam Nunn, Richie Torres asked Timothy whether there are only two kinds of assets, after calling out his Democrat colleagues for having, quote, anti-crypto derangement syndrome. This is a reference to something I won't repeat here, but it's pretty based. Timothy said that there are two kinds of assets and that an asset can be a commodity and a security at the same time. I didn't understand. Something related to assets being listed on futures exchanges. He also implied ETH was a security during his explanation and clarified that he wasn't saying ETH is a security. Strange indeed. The 23rd question came from Erin Houchin. She asked Marco how the issue of crypto disclosure can be solved. Marco said that the US should follow in the footsteps of the EU's crypto regulations, which include such disclosures. Erin also revealed that US citizens want to invest in crypto in a compliant way. The 24th question came from Wiley Nickel. He started by saying that 100-year-old laws aren't appropriate for crypto, the Howey test used by the SEC. He asked Marco what registering with the SEC looks like. Marco said he has no idea what it means for exchanges or crypto projects because it's not currently possible. The 25th question came from Jonathan Jackson. He started by saying that he's concerned about all the pro-crypto regulations overseas. Andrew jumped in and literally said, quote, "If you're scared of MiCA, then you're going to be terrified about the UK's upcoming crypto regulations," meaning they will be good. Now, if you watched our video about the UK's upcoming crypto regulations, you'll already know their initial draft was looking good. Andrew's exchange with Jonathan seems to confirm that their final version will look just as good, if not better. Andrew seemed to suggest that he could only reveal so much about it. After another anti-crypto rant by Al Green, Brad Sherman went on an anti-crypto rant of his own. In his rage, he revealed that, quote, all the money and power is on the side of the crypto bros, implying that the recent lobbying by crypto projects and companies is working. If that ain't bullish, I don't know what is. So, this brings me to the big question, and that's what all of this means for the crypto market. Well, the short answer is that politicians on both sides of the aisle are starting to take crypto regulation seriously. This is probably because they realize their political future ultimately depends on them being pro-crypto. The caveat is one I've mentioned many times before, and that's that we may not see any crypto regulations come into force in the United States until after the next election. Still, it's starting to look like the initial draft of these regulations will be ready by the end of the year, possibly even a final draft. Not only that, but it's starting to look like the US is going to follow in the footsteps of places like the EU and the UK. This means crypto-specific regulations, or at least clear boundaries on the SEC and CFTC's authorities. This alone would go a long way to making crypto projects and companies more comfortable. That said, it's important to remember that the politicians taking the time to sit down and discuss crypto are mostly pro-crypto. As amazing as it is to see the number of pro-crypto politicians growing in all these different committees, the fact of the matter is that most of their constituents don't care about crypto. Again, this will change when the crypto market starts to rally again and America starts to feel the FOMO, but this might not happen for months, possibly years. It fundamentally depends on how much money will flow into crypto from pro-crypto jurisdictions like Hong Kong when their new rules come into force. Now, for what it's worth, I'm confident that these inflows will be sufficient to move crypto prices to the point that they pique the interest of the average American. The only thing I'm not confident about is exactly when this could happen. Hong Kong's crypto rules will come into force on the 1st of June, which is very soon. However, that doesn't guarantee that there will be a flood of inflows on the first day. It could take weeks, if not months, for investors to start allocating, for price momentum to grow, for new market makers to step in, for new exchanges to set up shop, etc. Then again, Hong Kong has really hit the ground running. In sum then, the next few months are going to be crucial for the crypto market and for crypto regulations in the United States. With a bit of luck, the US will see the success of all the pro-crypto regulations overseas and replicate them at home. If it does, then the next crypto bull run will be a rally unlike any other. And that's all for today's video, my friends. If you found it informative, smash that like button to let me know. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, share this video with your crypto friends and family to ensure they're informed too. And if you're looking for the best bang for your sats, then you have to check out the Coin Bureau deals page. There are currently exchange discounts and bonuses of up to $40,000 available exclusively for the viewers of this channel. Link is in the description for you folks. So, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.